Agreed.
That is agreed. Garmagat Lascan Corla. Minister, we were told in 2016 that the National Children's Hospital would cost €650 million. We were told in 2017 that the total cost would in fact be €980 million, an increase of about 50%. We were told in 2018 that the cost would in fact be €1.4 billion, about another 50% increase in cost. And then there's an additional €300 million required for IT and opening the hospital. So that brings us to €1.7 billion so far. That's well over 2.5 times more than the €650 million that we were told about in 2016. It's like somebody in 2016 being told that they could have a house built for them for 250 grand, and in 2018 being told it's no longer 250 grand, it's 650 grand. That's the scale of the increase that the Irish people have been told about. At €1.7 billion, the Irish people are paying several times more per bed than the most expensive hospitals anywhere in the world. The two most expensive hospitals ever built, in Adelaide and Stockholm, came in at €1.8 and €1.6 million per hospital bed. The National Children's Hospital is coming in at €3.6 million per hospital bed, more than twice that of the most expensive hospitals ever built. Now, some in government say that this comparison isn't fair, that you've got to compare the National Children's Hospital to other children's hospitals. So I did that. 4 years ago, the Alder Hey Children's Hospital was finished in Liverpool. At 309 beds and a cost of €270 million, the English people will be paying 1/4 the amount per bed. Could I ask that maybe the deputies leave the chamber if they want to have a chat? We're trying to have a debate. At 309 beds.
Saying to the deputy, he's fine. Through the chair, everything said here is through the chair, so please silence for any deputy. In this case, Deputy Donnelly.
At 309 beds, €270 million, the Irish people will be paying 4 times more per bed than they paid in England just a few years ago. Minister, by any measure, this is an outrageous overspend. It's an insult to every taxpayer, to every citizen. It's an insult to every doctor and nurse working in outdated facilities or understaffed teams. It's an insult to more than 500,000 people waiting to see a consultant. It's an insult to every child who's waiting for surgery or a wheelchair or special needs support. It's an insult to every young person desperately waiting for access to child and adolescent mental health services. But the government's response has not been to put their hands up and say, we got this badly wrong, we're going to do everything we can to fix it. The government's response has been deny and defend. In September 2017, the Minister for Health was told that he was already looking at an overrun of €61 million. And I'm going to put that in context. Deputy McGrath got figures from the HSE in the last few days that looked at overruns of health projects of over €10 million. And the combined overrun over the last decade was €30 million. In September 2017, Minister Harris was told he was already looking at an overrun of €61 million, more than twice the combined overrun for the entire capital spend in health over a decade. And yet, having been told that, in the subsequent year, he never once asked for an update. Not once. At the same time, he was trying to get his head around a €700 million overrun on the current expenditure side, and never once said, you remember that €61 million on the Children's Hospital? Has that gone up, or has that gone back down? And finally, a year later, he was told, well, Minister, it has gone up. It's gone up from €61 million to about €400 million. But we'll get back to you with an exact figure soon enough. So what did he do? He withheld the information from this House, which he has apologised for. He withheld the information from the Taoiseach. He withheld the information from the Minister for Finance, in spite of a PR firm being hired to come up with communication strategies for the overspend. And we are now told that even if the Minister had told the Taoiseach and had told the Dáil and had told the Minister for Finance, actually, I'm looking at an overspend of about 400 million quid, even if he had done that, it wouldn't have affected the health budget for 2019. And we're being told that at the same time that the health budget for 2019 is being changed because of the overrun. We were told originally that the massive overrun was due to inflation. And then we got documents to show that this wasn't true. So an attempt was made in this chamber to shift the blame to unnamed contractors for lowballing. But that strategy very quickly failed as well. And now we're told that the mistakes were made by what the Taoiseach is describing as agents of the state. But even these mysterious agents of the state, we are told, didn't actually let the costs get out of control. All they're guilty of is underestimating the cost at the start. We were told that €650 million is a reasonable price to pay. We are told today that €1.7 billion is a reasonable price to pay for the same hospital. We were told by the Minister for Health that, quote, the only scandal in relation to this would have been a decision to cancel the project. No, €1 billion in additional spend on the same hospital is a scandal. When the Taoiseach was recently pressed on what mistakes his government actually made, here's what he said. I don't think that if we'd been monitoring it any more closely, that somehow we could have made it cheaper to build. Perhaps in terms of communications, the timing and making the public and media aware sooner. So in this entire debacle, the only blame the Taoiseach is willing to accept for his government is that maybe they should have told us all about it a little bit quicker. That's it. That's all they're willing to accept. Now, every single expert I have spoken with about this has said that major construction projects routinely run over and are routinely brought back in to budget. That's how the world works. It's just not how the National Children's Hospital works. We were told that serious efforts were in fact made to reduce the costs, but then we were given over 100 documents. And those 100 documents don't, to me, show any serious effort to reduce the costs. In fact, it was Fianna Fáil who asked for the PwC terms of reference to change, to include looking at ways to reduce the cost. The government's terms of reference didn't even ask PwC to do that. It is essential that the National Children's Hospital be co-located with a maternity hospital. We were told that the Coombe Women and Children's University Hospital would be moving to the St James's site. But a few weeks ago, in response to a parliamentary question, we were told the following. The project to move the Coombe is at an early stage and has yet to progress to planning and design phases. The St James's site was chosen 7 years ago. And basic planning and design to move the Coombe to the James's site hasn't even started. We were told that there would be a workforce planning exercise done to ensure the new children's hospital would be fully staffed. But the reality is they're struggling to find staff even for the satellite centres. We have now reached a point, Minister, it is fair to say that when it comes to the children's hospital, nobody believes a single word that this government says. Here's what we do know. The clinicians at the current 3 children's hospitals are doing everything they can to provide the highest possible quality of care. But those facilities are no longer fit for purpose. They don't have the diagnostics, they don't have the equipment, they don't have the space. And it's putting huge pressure on sick children, on their families, and on our clinicians. We know that these children urgently need a new hospital. Now, If the Children's Hospital opens as planned in 2023, it's been delayed until 2023, it will have been 11 years from when the James's site was chosen to when it was opened. 11 years. It will have been 17 years since a government decision was made to build a new children's hospital. And so we know that there are material risks to moving the site. I believe there are some very strong reasons why one would choose the Donnelly site over the James's site, but there are very, very serious timing risks to any contemplation. Now, we also know that there was and continues to be a lack of consensus amongst clinicians and other stakeholders with regard to the choice of the current site. And we are all acutely aware of the genuine anger and the real fear felt by many parents of sick children regarding the potential difficulties of access and other issues associated with the current site. So given all of this, Fianna Fáil has tabled a motion which calls on the government to do the following. Ensure the ongoing PwC report includes an extensive value engineering analysis to identify options to get the costs back down. Urgently produce a costed and timetabled plan for the delivery of the Coombe Hospital at the existing site. Redesign the process for public procurement so that it doesn't take 17 years to build a hospital. Include in the PwC report, in light of the massive cost overruns, an analysis of the total costs and potential time implications of moving from James's to the Donnelly site, and act on the chronic clinical recruitment and retention crisis being experienced, so that when this hospital opens, it's full of doctors and nurses and all the other wonderful healthcare professionals that it needs to be full of. I think it's highly unlikely that the right thing to do for sick children right now would be to move the site. I think there are massive cost implications, and more seriously, I think there are massive time implications. You could see this delayed by another 10 years. I would hope to God it wouldn't be, but that is a real risk. And so I don't think, on balance, moving the hospital at this point is the right thing to do. I think the wrong site may well have been chosen at the start. However, there are eminent clinicians and parents of very sick children who passionately believe that it is still the right thing to do. And so if for no other reason than to respect those doctors and respect those nurses and respect those parents and respect those children, we believe that the PwC report should run the rule over the cost and timing implications. And critically, the government needs to get to grips with getting the cost back down, getting the maternity hospital out there, and making sure that we can fill it with the best doctors, nurses and healthcare professionals we can. Thank you.